Thank you for having me at the White Style Film Festival. My name is Rafael, and I work at Facebook as the head of Creative Shop for Southeast Asia. Digital advertising has been my passion for the last 15 years. When I started, there was no smartphones. It was very basic, just banner ads and microsites. And from then till now, everything changed. So you get to learn how to be adaptable. And today we see that things are changing even faster. So that's what keeps me motivated and passionate about and never bored, because every time there is something new and there is new ways to craft your storytelling. But the most important thing is still to have a good story to tell. Right? So storytelling is the most important thing, and everything else is just a medium on where you tell that story. So in the past it might be radio or TV or newspaper. Now it's the mobile. And then within the mobile, that also changes very fast. So in the beginning, maybe you have text, and then it evolved into pictures, and then videos. And nowadays you have reels and vertical video and AR, and it's becoming more and more interactive. Yeah, so I believe that everything starts with an idea and a story that you want to tell. And then you must decide what's the best way to convey that message. And it might not necessarily start with a film or a video. It might be a product. It might be something that you created in real life, a prototype for something. And then you need to think how you're going to transform that and how you're going to reach enough people with your storytelling. And that is the power of social media today, right? Anybody can have an audience. Anybody is able to promote their story and to tell their story the way they want to tell it, without any filters or without any middleman to control what they are saying and how they are saying. The viral videos is something that maybe brands would always want to have in the beginning. Maybe if you think 10 years ago or 5 years ago, most brands would come to creatives and ask for a viral campaign, right? I want something that goes viral. Nowadays, I guess it's less about going viral and more about reaching the right people with your story. So it's not about the quantity of people who watch it, but the quality. And there is also a movement in that direction where you see users that want to connect with smaller groups, with close friends, and they want to move more into one-on-one conversations or small group conversations based on their interests. So I think, of course, going viral and reaching millions of people with your message is as important as ever, right? But also having that small community that is really interested on the same things you are and being able to connect with them is as valuable as the reach. And that is, I guess, one of the biggest strengths of Facebook is the power of communities and bringing communities together and connecting people in a meaningful way. And of course, if you are talking about something that will interest millions of people, you still can get millions of views and you can reach those millions of people. But end of the day, when you need to take action or when you want to have a close group of people that have a very same interest, then it's more important to find that community, to find that group, and to foster that relationship. So I guess when I joined Facebook, my main goal and my main actually my job description is to be able to create value for people and for brands. So how do we help brands to communicate on a people-first manner? So it's not a one-way message like they are used to do on traditional advertising. They are not going to craft a 30-second film on TV and expect people to watch it. They now can expect people to reply back, to interact with it, to share it, and to also have their own opinion and point of view on that and be able to create content and share. So it's a much more complex environment, but it's much more constructive and relevant. And that is what we currently do. We look at a people-first approach to advertising. And we help brands to navigate and to adapt to it. So right now we are also working a lot with like small business, not only like big brands, and we are looking to have like inclusion of like small business and giving them the same opportunity as the big brands always had. So in the past, if you want to have a voice, if you want to build a brand, you're gonna need like a deep pocket and invest on marketing and run some ads, some billboards, some radio ads, TV ads. Nowadays, like with $1, if you are a small bakery, you can already start reaching customers at your neighborhood with pictures and videos of your freshly baked produce, right? So that is like actually like including a whole new community and giving them access to advertising like never before. Yeah, I guess in the beginning, like brands are still a bit more defensive about like that environment, and they still want to control the whole message, and they want to control the whole storytelling of their brand and of their products. And nowadays, most brands understood that they cannot control it when it comes to social media, right? They can guide it, they can like position their product and their brand the way they believe is the right way, but they're gonna receive a very instant feedback from the community if that is the right way of doing it. And the brands that are able to adapt and that are very responsive, they can leverage from it. And you see like many brands leveraging like moments now and being able to respond to social events or to just like a micro moments that happen and instantly create a campaign or to create a moment out of it, right? So you see recently there was a brand that is a cereal brand, and they posted a picture of like a cereal with beans, and everybody went crazy about it because everybody was like, you cannot eat cereal with beans, right? And all the other brands start responding to it, and from a single post they basically created a whole campaign. And either you like to eat cereal with beans or not, that's not the point. The whole idea was to create that conversation around that topic. And if it was done on TV, where they just do a beautiful ad with the cereal and the milk going to the plate and then they put beans on it, maybe people would have that same reaction at home, but it would end there. And the good thing about social media is that it doesn't end there, it continues. So it's important to have that awareness that it will continue and that it can continue. So some cases, like the best case scenario, it does continue in a positive way. Like most cases, it just ends there, it's just another ad, same as it was on TV. And then you also have the bad cases where it has like a negative impact and some things like backfire. So I guess like people need to be aware of all those. And that goes from brands, but it also goes to creators and people who create content and they put themselves out there. You have many cases of creators that are doing great and they have millions of followers, and suddenly they post something that is wrong, or sometimes like they not even intend it to be perceived that way, and suddenly it backfires, and they also lose other sponsors and they lose lots of followers. So I guess like that awareness on that space is very important, and also to be able to have your own like mental awareness of what you want to put out there and how people will react to it. It's important that you have that judgment before you do it. So I guess like more and more the more like space people have, the more people they can reach, the more responsible they also need to be with what message they are putting out there. So that is one of the key things like that Facebook tries to policy, like with like content, content that can be harmful or content that might not be appropriate. But end of the day, it's still like very open for people to express their opinions and post their content. We had lots of positive stories also when people come together and they build something or they create something and they get the visibility they need, right? So especially on like social good or like environmental related topics, people are really able to create a movement and to protest something that is wrong, and they are able to reach the right people, and they are able to reach like decision makers like never before. They can tag anyone they want to their content. They can call out people on comments. They can ask people to create content and support them. So it's much easier than before, right, to create this kind of movement and to create this kind of social impact. And I guess there is like maybe a misconception that content on social media needs to be short. I guess like you need to capture attention quick. And if you do capture people's attention, then you need to retain their attention. So it's a second by second play of your content being able to capture the attention and keep people engaged. Because attention is something that is very valuable today, and people like get used to swipe through content so fast. And you basically have 1 second or 2 seconds of their attention before they decide if they're gonna continue watching or swipe you left or swipe you up or close your video. So it's important that you have that awareness when you're doing a storytelling. How are you gonna keep that interesting? How are you gonna capture the attention? And how you're gonna deliver your message and when. So that is, I guess, the most important thing of storytelling on our platforms. Yeah, so storytelling like traditionally would start from you build the momentum and then you reach that top and the peak and then you review it, right? And in TV advertising, that would be maybe around 20 seconds where you're building that momentum until you make the big review before you close with your brand and your logo. On social media, you almost have an inverse pyramid, right? Where you need to start with your big review or start with the big moment that is gonna capture the attention, followed by your message, your product, your brand. You should be safe that if people only watch 3 seconds or 5 seconds of your ad, they already get enough to remember something or to get at least a partial message of your story. And then you can continue developing that story further. And you can continue to make it interesting, but you need to capture people's attention second by second, and you need to keep them interested too until the end. So it's a very different approach to storytelling. So it's not only like the format that is different, the narrative is different, how people can interact also, and how people can participate on it, like not only by commenting, but maybe remixing the content, sharing the content, and having their own point of view on it. And stay tuned for the webinar on vertical cinema, where we're gonna talk about creating content for mobile with your mobile. So with new platforms emerging and new formats like Reels, we see like that creating for vertical screen has become more and more important. And there is a whole new approach to craft for you to be able to tell a story vertically versus the traditional widescreen. So we're gonna talk about how you can use a phone to create content that's natural and that feels authentic and connects with the audience. Diversity and inclusion is a very important topic for us today. And there is a lot that people can do themselves to defend and to push the narratives that they are passionate about. But there is also a lot that brands and that we try to do when we work with advertising campaigns to improve. So we look after diversity and inclusion from a point of view of the cast that is going to be on that film or on that advertising. We also look at diversity and inclusion from the point of view of the production house that we are working with. So having more like minority-owned production companies or having like more female directors telling their stories. So we believe that that will give people a much more complete narrative and a much more broad point of view, because when people tell their stories the way they should be, that is the best way to go, instead of other people trying to represent those communities. So diversity and inclusion basically start with giving people a voice. And the beautiful thing about social media is that everybody have a voice, and everybody can come and express their opinions and talk about and connect with their peers, connect with groups, and make that movement bigger and give it more visibility. So that is one of the beginning moments of D&I on our platform, right? Just giving people a voice. Now also with advertising and advertisers, we also try to guide them through ensuring that brands have a value and that they understand how they can drive that message and how that can connect with people, either broadly or in small groups. So we also look at diversity of audience. So how brands can reach to audiences that are overlooked. So there is a lot of work that can and that is currently being done for diversity and inclusion on social media. We have seen now with internet being more accessible, smartphones being more accessible, you get more a broadened audience that has access to that content. So we need to account for all the people, not only people living in metropolitan areas. So we are also looking at how can we get a message that are relevant for people living in rural areas or in rural districts, or people who just got connected to the internet and what are the things that they want and that they need, not only from our platform, but also from brands that advertise on our platform. So looking into that will give the audience a more relevant content, and it's gonna make us a more inclusive space. Yeah, so I guess there was never a better time for content creators than today. In the past, if you are a content creator, maybe you have a small camera, you shoot your videos on tape, you edit on your garage, and then you play it to your family, right? So, or you are one of the lucky ones that end up going and producing content for Hollywood. Nowadays, anyone can put content. The content don't need to be very well crafted. It's all about your concept and your story. And there is lots of creators that they don't even talk. They just have a little gesture that they do pointing at something. And it works. So anyone with an idea can now go live and test their idea without investing a single dollar to decide if that works or it doesn't work. And that goes from ideas on storytelling, on content creation, but it also goes all the way to building a brand or to creating a business and a product. You don't even need to have a shop anymore, right? Before opening the shop or even before you build your product, you can talk about it, you can advertise it, and then you can see how people receive that or how people give you constructive feedback to improve it. And that will guide you through that journey of creating your business. So there was never a better moment to leverage that in your favor. It's a big testing ground for whatever you want to do. If you want to tell a story, if you want to open a business, if you want to create a product, that is the best space for you to get started. And you can even use interactive tools to talk directly with your audience. You can create a polling. You can ask people what kind of content they would like you to create next. You can ask if they like the content or not. You can tell people to ask you questions or to give you inspiration. So it's not you working alone. It's you starting a conversation with your audience and building that community. So when we talk about craft and creating for that vertical space, we also need to think about the audience. Who is going to be watching that? And who are you trying to reach? And how polished your content actually needs to be? How authentic you want it to be? How you want the story to be received by people? So when you have that, it's important that you test, right, your content. And the good thing is that you don't need to do one film that you're gonna submit. That's what I just mentioned. You can do 3 films, and you can do like one very basic film first and put it out there and see how people react. You don't need to put it publicly. You can share with your small group of friends. You can send it through WhatsApp or through Messenger, and you can get feedback. So I guess like feedback and testing is a really important part of the process. And there are tools that are now available that you can basically create a very simple film just using the phone, editing on the phone and posting it. And you can pretty much do it in one day and start getting feedback instantly. I believe that having a voice is important, but then being responsible on how you use it is also like important. And then not expecting other people to tell your story for you, but you taking charge of it. Adding like representation on your own like storytelling. If you're talking about a specific community, how is that community involved on the video itself? Maybe not only being featured on the video, but how can they participate on the storytelling, or how can they participate on the production of that story? So it's important for people to be aware of that space and to leverage it to its full potential. Nowadays, like, we can tell our own stories. We can involve our community on it, and we can connect with communities through that content. So we can create things, and then we can get instant feedback on what we just created, and then we can move on from there. So it's really important, because this moment, anyone have a voice, and anyone can create content for free, right? Consume the content and create the content. So it's a very inclusive space that people could be leveraging it to talk about their passions. So if I need to give one advice, is fail faster. So if you're gonna fail, the best thing for you to do is fail as fast as possible and create something, put it up there, and get no reaction, no views, and move on to the next one. Instead of having an idea on your head for months, thinking how that can be great, and how can you craft it, and who can you involve, and how can you compete with all the other creators and directors to make it big, just do it. Go on, film it, make it simple, put it up there, and see what happens. You must be creating content constantly, and that's how you're gonna become a master of that craft. By doing it, not by planning how to do it.